Sure. Yeah. All right. Sorry, there's a lot of clicks.
Yeah.
A lot of clicks.
I don't want to go through that.
Is this
Well,
okay?
That was saved for Rich. You can see if you're on camera right there.
Okay, so you want me to be?
And I can move
Well,
for you. You can do
No, no, it
anything.
doesn't matter. You tell me.
We will accommodate.
No, no, it's all good.
There we go.
It's all
See?
good.
Magic.
Oh
There
my
you
God,
are.
amazing. Fantastic. Well, I have one word from today, and that is wow, right? It's really an honor to be able to also contribute to this and appreciate everyone joining online as well. So we're going to talk about the essential role of architects at the strategy table. We'll look at what does successful strategy execution actually look like and our role in that. I'll share 3 practical, really proven techniques to get more upfront in strategy execution, and then I'll end with a few ways to move into practical action on those ideas. So let's get started. And you can click one more time. Perfect. One more time, if you don't mind. Oh, we're a team. This is good.
We're a
This is
team.
good. This is good. Well, everything is changing, isn't it? AI is changing everything, as we know, from industries to organizations and how they work and how we make decisions. And so, for all these reasons, I think our role at the strategy table has never been more important than it is right now. And I know different teams experience different things, but I see an uptick in the interest in enterprise architecture and recognition of the value, especially by different groups of people that maybe it wasn't necessarily on their scope before, because it's helping to navigate AI and pace of change. And with pace of change, of course, we need to do strategy execution really well. Next slide. Sorry, bad timing. So there's a few reasons why I think architects are essential at the strategy table. The first, as we've mentioned multiple times today, Duncan, you mentioned in your presentation, right? Bringing the business context or the enterprise context and the why to AI and technology decision making. I still see a lot of organizations are taking this sort of technology first approach, and I think we can always bring them back to the business. That's an important part of our role. In addition, as we've heard here today, highlighting the full organizational impacts of AI and technology. I don't know that leaders, or we could even possibly all have our heads around what the full implications are, especially as things play out down the road on organizations. But I think we as a group of people really see the impacts to operating models and decision systems, and even, much different, ways to organize our organizations, like self-management. In addition, this I think is really important. We can help our organizations to envision a new future that is made possible with AI and technology. Rob said earlier today, sometimes the how drives the what, right? And this is a good example, because with AI and technology, we have a whole bunch of strategic options that weren't possible before. And as I just look at the way I see companies reacting to AI, it reminds me of when I was learning how to ride a motorcycle. And I lived in Chicago at the time. And I remember I was making this very tight turn onto a crowded street full of parked cars. And as I was making the turn, I was really fixated on this one car. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to hit that car. I'm going to hit that car. Like, panic, I'm going to hit that car. And I had this flash of my instructor in my mind saying, focus on where you want to go. Look into the turn. And as I did that, I sort of fixated on this invisible point in the road, but my body automatically adjusted. I didn't hit the car, right? But that's kind of the parallel here. It feels like there's a little bit of, we're staring at the car. There's some consternation. Oh my gosh, this is happening. We can't do anything about it. What is everybody else doing? But we can help our organizations to look into the turn and help them reimagine what is possible and who they really want to become. And lastly, we can help our organizations to build the capacity to translate strategy into coordinated action. This is always something they need, and many organizations are still challenged here, so important place to focus. So what does strategy execution excellence actually look like? There's a few characteristics as I look at best practice organizations. I could tell stories all day, but I will be brief. The first is that they look at strategy to execution as a function, not just a bunch of processes and teams that are fragmented and we sort of hope that we deliver what we need to. Like, it's a thing, and that function is important as any other function in the organization because it's the ability to change and it's the ability to adapt, and we all know how important that is. And it is a multidisciplinary function. Strategy execution takes a village of teams to work together from end to end. And so we also have a cohesive strategy to execution operating model with an end that, still okay? That allows all those teams to work together. I think I'm good. Okay. I'm not good.
Oh, you're good.
Okay.
The microphone's not good. There's a difference.
So a couple examples here, something as simple as creating a strategy to execution playbook and co-creating it so that we all know how we work together to deliver that outcome, and accountability from end to end. In fact, some organizations have put all the organizational design and change disciplines under one business leader. That's a pretty radical but effective move because it really centralizes the accountability. Successful organizations also operate with an enterprise mindset that is embedded in their culture. Honestly, when I start working with organizations now, I focus on the case for change, and I try to anchor on an enterprise mindset that we create as a principle or imperative, even embedded as an objective that we're going to commit to. And that makes a really big difference for behavior. I am encouraged to see more and more organizations doing this. Things they're declaring, we're going to be a capability-driven organization. We're going to operate with an enterprise mindset. Everyone needs to be a good enterprise citizen. I'm not making those things up. Those are real examples from organizations and business leaders that have set that tone. Of course, excellent strategy execution requires excellent strategies. That's really the starting point. Strategy that is decisive, coherent, and creates advantage. Not a bunch of fluff, not a bunch of initiatives that make people feel good, right? Something that actually is choice that can really serve as a North Star, especially as the organization needs to continue to adapt. And of course, strategy is much more adaptive than it's been as well. And that strategy has to be clearly communicated across the organization. Yeah. And then there's a matter of translating that strategy. So successful organizations are really good at the stuff that's front and center for us, which is translating strategy into coordinated, cross-silo, business-owned, capability-centered plans. I know that was a whole lot of words, but every one of them is important. And, they really get that we have to structure work and bring people together cross-functionally, which requires them to do different things and go beyond just the product structures of organizing work. And two more things. Successful organizations have a continual alignment mechanism between strategy, capability, plans, execution. They can sense change and they can kind of ripple it through. So the entire strategy to execution process needs to be agile itself so we can sort of respond like this living organism to change. And finally, they measure success based on business objectives and outcomes, not activity, not delivery, not did we get it done, but did we actually move the needle? So our role in all of that, cool. Strategic role of architects in strategy execution. I know a lot might be familiar here, but just to reiterate. So first, it's thinking left to right. It's us thinking left to right, and it's us being engaged from left to right. And what I mean by that is starting with strategy and business into the technology and delivery, not thinking technology and delivery back to the business, right? That's a great place to end up. It's a great place to start our journey and build that traction, but ultimately we want to be going from left to right. Grant, please.
So we've both walked this journey a bit, right? I'll get on camera so
Oh, I
you can see
like
me.
it. Wait.
Where am I?
Oh, come on with me. I haven't seen you.
There we are. Hi. Okay. So
Hi.
we've both been on this journey a few times. Everyone wants to be on the left, right?
Yeah.
So tell me what's differentiated the architects that have earned their way to the left from the ones that's stuck on the right.
Ooh, great question. Well, first of all, it's thinking from left to right. And I'm serious about that. If you're thinking from right to left, like here's the tech and how do I go back to that business stuff? Like you have to put yourself in those business shoes. That's probably the biggest thing. It's the mindset. Like I own this business as much as anybody. I'm caring about the outcomes. What's in the head of these business leaders? What keeps them up at night? It's thinking that way and going over. And then it's this, and I'll share these sort of 3 techniques, right? It's earning the seat at that table and doing strategic things and being able to show value and show your thinking so people want you at that table. Yeah, love it, love it. Next pop-up, please. So some things we do. Inform strategy and business model evolution, tremendously important. And as you say, Grant, that is a big seat at the table to be earned, not given, right? Yep, demonstrated. And part of informing strategy, it's not just, here's the capabilities we have, informing strategy and even taking those capabilities and innovating to deliver new products, services. But it's also helping, especially for the people in this room, it's helping our business leaders to understand how they can leverage technology for strategic advantage and to entirely reimagine the business models, because I think we can see those things and we can really add value at the table from that perspective. It's surfacing system-wide impacts of decision-making. It's translating change. One more click, if you don't mind. One more, if you don't mind. That's sort of that whole golden thread there. It's, ensuring continual alignment from strategy to execution. And then finally, ensuring those measurable outcomes. As part of that translating strategy, there's another piece that is really important. And Grant, to your point, what do people do as they get to that table? There's this idea of integrated enterprise architecture and design, right? Business architecture is it's the keystone that locks it together, but it's also coming together with those other teams to literally design an experience, the organization, the people, the process, the technology. You can tick off roles for all of those, right? So it is cohesive, and we're being intentional about enterprise design. It's not just the tech and a little bit of the capability and the other stuff comes later. It's integrated design and doing it together, and our role can truly drive that. Awesome. So how do we get up front in strategy execution? Again, I'll share 3 practical techniques. Some of them may not be new, but these are really, really tried and true around the planet. I see them working again and again, which is why I have a lot of conviction around them. They not only deliver immediate value, but they shift the thinking. So people start thinking enterprise and they start seeing a new vision for strategy execution. But before I share the techniques, just a little bit on how strategy becomes reality. So strategy requires capabilities. Capabilities inform strategy. Capabilities enabled by people, process, technology, as we know, and the portfolio of work is going to make changes to the people, process, and technology to strengthen the capabilities so we can deliver on strategy. Nothing new there to anybody here, but I like to call that the golden thread. And I just share that because it's really that thinking that we exercise sort of left to right and right to left in these various scenarios. So the first technique is to bring an enterprise lens to investment decision making. This is something you can do anytime, honestly. Ideally, you're involved with your strategic portfolio management group, right? And you offer to get to the table and do these views. This is a great way to show value. Or honestly, you can take any set of initiatives and align them back to objectives, align them back to capabilities, create heat map views, and raise conversations where things are out of alignment. That's basically the technique. So just to show an example here, it is a real example from a Fortune 500 company. I realize it's just colored boxes to you, but it's actually quite a powerful example here. This is their capability map at a level 2, so basically enterprise on a page. And we heat mapped it to strategy. So our red box on the left is most important to strategy, yellow, pretty important, and you can figure out the rest of the key. On the right-hand side, that's great, thanks. Right-hand side, that's the organizational investment. So This company has multiple portfolios. That's an aggregate view of all of the spend. And of course, there's separate portfolio views. On the right-hand side, the color coding is top third of the plan spend is red, middle third is yellow, bottom third green, gray, no plan spend. And now what you don't see, but was a real part of the value of this, was the number of business cases and the aggregate dollar amounts were in those boxes, obviously along with the capability names, which I've removed. And that was shocking because people were like, we are spending how many million on this and why, and what are we all doing? So this technique is good for every reason that we know it, because at least most organizations don't see this aggregate. And it's also a very objective way to look at it. And it's a very visual way to look at it. So it allows new enterprise conversations to happen. For two basically comparisons, left to right. If you see the bottom left-hand two capabilities there, they're not at all important to strategy. Of course, they are to running the business, but they're the top third of the plan spend. And that was coming from one portfolio, right? So if it's regulatory or something like that, fine. But if it's not, that one is seriously on the table for how do we spend money best as an enterprise. Without this view, they would have never made a different decision because that portfolio leader would have funded it because of course we know we need that and they know their silo, right? The second comparison is the spend to itself, where we found a lot of redundancy and also so conflicts. And we'll do, and one more if you don't mind, yeah. In this case, we also found some conflicting philosophy around capabilities and how they were being delivered to customers, which is fine, except that customers in this company have multiple products. And so they're getting really different experiences. So credit to the leaders here. They tabled a number of things, paused where there was redundancy, and they paused a bunch of things in favor of creating an enterprise-wide set of customer experience principles and said, we can't do this. We got to make sure we have the right direction. So that's technique number one. Technique number two is translate strategy through an enterprise lens, just using that golden thread. A good insertion point for this is if your organization is doing a strategy refresh, has a new strategy, is doing a transformation, anytime you have, business direction that needs to be translated into action, that's an opportunity to get at the table. And what I see most organizations do, they sort of have the strategy pieces that in the blue columns there. You may call them different things, but then they sort of jump to the initiatives, right? To this laundry list of solutions and initiatives that's going to answer that. And that, skipping over the value stream and capability there, skipping over the second stage, that's where many of the execution challenges downstream are born. They're born there. They just show up later when we're funding things that are misaligned. We created something duplicate. We fragmented experiences for people. So it doesn't look like much, but this is a game changer. So instead, you take the strategy, which capabilities are impacted in which value stream context. This is obviously only a very small part of this thread, but what starts to appear, and click, yep, we know there's people, process, technology behind this. The capabilities just show us where is change happening. But what we start to see is these objectives, these different things we're doing across the enterprise, they're hitting the same capabilities. And so how do we think about work differently? How do we invest differently? How do we bring business ownership to those things that are really cross-cutting, right? So this is a serious step into capability-based planning when people really see that. And underpinning this, and the example before, is the idea of capability assessment, right? That's we've referred to. How important is the capability? How well is it working? That's actually a fourth technique, standalone or used with others. Capability assessments are a great. People don't usually do them, right? They're a great way to get at the table and shift conversation. And again, thanks. And the last technique is to frame AI technology decisions through an enterprise business lens. And cool. This seems so basic and obvious, but I have to say it because I see it missing in most conversations. Conversations on AI and technology are about the solutions, or people, you all know this, right? We know this. People have different ideas in their minds. So as basic as it is, putting up a core blueprint of a value stream and the capabilities that we're talking about, and maybe there are multiple, it shifts the entire conversation, because now we're also all like staring at that shared mental model and having the conversation in context of that. And if we are now tying where we're going to have AI enablement or AI agents back to the capabilities, we immediately know what's the value of it, what else is impacted, and are we doing other technology investments in that space? Are we doing other things to that capability from regulation, acquisition, right? It brings it all there. And by the way, from a business architecture perspective, this is our orchestration blueprint, right? At a high level. So tremendously important. And this is the same blueprint we use for strategy, execution, et cetera. So just bring a blueprint to the conversation. Again, it's a way to move up in the strategy stack. So I'll just share a few words on moving into practical action. Next slide, please. And one more, thanks. So how do we make sure that we're not just technical advisors,
But people with working AV?
Awesome. So how do we make sure we are not just technical advisors, but true strategic, trusted strategic partners? I'd offer some things around the skill set. And again, Grant, when you asked before, what people who have succeeded, how did they get there? It's mastering this stuff. It's really understanding strategy formulation itself, which is a discipline that's undergoing its own change. Strategic thinking, the integrated enterprise design that I mentioned before. So that also means we have to know about human-centered design. We have to know about organization design and other things to be able to sort of drive them and bring them together. Relationship building, communication mastery, org change, and influence. Those are just some top ones on my list. The only one that has anything to do with technology is integrated enterprise design, and that's only part of it. The next is also mindset. So, mindset is the way we see the world, and it's how we can also lead other people. So business first, as I said, think from left to right. Enterprise stewardship, so really thinking of ourselves, we kind of already do, but we are stewards of the enterprise, and also being relentlessly focused on outcomes, not just activities and delivery. And finally, the tool set around it is, I think the 3 or 4, if you consider capability assessment, those tools, there's a lot of ways and places you can apply those, and they will help you to, like I said, deliver immediate value and start shifting thinking. So practical next steps to move into action: assess your business architecture practice to ensure it's contemporary. Business architecture has grown up a lot in the last 15 years. And it did it under the radar of a lot of people. So if you haven't really looked at it recently, there's a lot of evolution. There's a lot of new depth and even standardization done by the Business Architecture Guild and other people. Also assessing your business architecture practice to make sure it's positioned to drive strategic impact for all of enterprise architecture, because business architecture and business architects are the tip of the spear, right, to actually be able to get upfront in strategy execution. Leveling up your team's strategic business skills and business architecture skills, if that's an area. Driving the enterprise mindset. So again, like I said, this is a place I start. Have those conversations with leaders and see if you can get an anchor around being enterprise driven or capability driven, just as a way to put a stake in the ground and get people to start shifting behavior. Create conversations. Sometimes we have to build intolerance for status quo. I find, even with all the statistics, with all people know in their organizations, it's like walking with a rock in your shoe. Like, you just get used to it. You're like, yeah, 70% of transformation efforts fail. Like, that's about right? But this is such an opportunity to get better. And agility isn't just through, the organization design and the technology. It's that, like I said, strategy to execution process. We really need it. Create a case for change on strategy execution, intentional integrated enterprise design that is powered by architecture and architects, of course. And finally, as I said earlier, help business leaders and their teams to, first of all, level up their understanding of technology. I think that's important. Not that we just bridge, but that we lift them up. And then also help them to reimagine a bigger and better future that's possible with all that we have available to us today. So with that, happy to chat, take questions.
Yeah, what brave soul wants to come up front? You know the drill now. Come on up, boss.
Quite the speed dating experience, which experienced. Always a pleasure, Whynde.
Oh, likewise.
Question regarding the skill set piece, if you don't mind bringing that back. There was a piece in there around communication mastery.
Yeah.
So what I always observe is we don't give that enough attention, right? Rich talked about it in terms of how his team has got embedded within the organization, right? And we observe the ability to speak a language the business wants to, and how we translate that into the technology world that it needs to. Any guidance on how we can help the practice develop that skills?
I mean, it's like sort of nebulous and hard, right? There's like basic skill building, like, okay, this is how to deliver a good story in the aspects. This is how to deliver a good presentation. This is how to visualize, simplify the complex. All that stuff is like sort of the low-hanging stuff that maybe is obvious. I think so much of it, context is huge. And honestly, the number one thing is I think the desire and the empathy. I know that sounds really strange because like we can be entirely tooled and all that, and I can learn all of that. But there's a difference between I really care about this person, I really understand their world, and I'm going to try to craft it in their language and put myself in their shoes. To me, that's such a big thing. And just like, how is it landing? How is it landing? It's just this very human aspect of it. I know it's not a great answer, but to me, that's the difference between having skills and mastery.
And that's another connection with the AI piece. How will an AI agent speak a business language to a business colleague? It might translate that into a technology solution, but how will that personal element the AI replicate?
Yeah.
Not yet.
And there's so much context too. It's not just like what business area am I in, but what kind of person am I? You know, maybe if I'm an executive, I may have these characteristics. So don't talk to me about this is a really interesting finding. Talk to me about this is going to move the bottom line. Like all this, very fine tuning stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Very good. Maybe one last question if someone's up. Come on up, Sarah. Right this way. Take the defunct baby.
Oh, thank you. Hi, Whynde. So I work for one of the regulators from the government in the UK. So and the question that I had was, I've been there 4 months, and one of the roles I was brought in to do was to write the first ever digital data strategy that the regulators ever had. But the ask for the strategy, I think, came from the wrong place, because they're probably, so I worked in the NHS nearly all of my career until going to the regulator, and have helped with many strategies, execute many strategies. But I feel like they think the strategy is what they need because they've never had one and they don't know how to catch up.
Yes.
So how do you almost make them stop and figure out why they need that strategy? Because at the moment, I feel like I could write something down that would be beautiful and would give them everything they need, even though they're petrified of AI. That's a different conversation. But how do you take them back before that first box?
Love it. Oof, I love it. Honestly, and maybe you don't have to pause, but as part of the process, you take them right back to the why and the what's the priority, what are we trying to do? I would take it back to the strategy. You tie that to value streams and capabilities. Your capabilities tie right to the data. Because if you do that, then you have this prioritized set of data that we need to focus on in the context of the business further through value streams. Then the data strategy is informed. Otherwise, it's like really disconnected. Like you said, it's sort of coming from the wrong place. So like as part of the process, do the business stuff. That's just part of doing the data strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ah, awesome. Awesome.
All right. Well, Whynde, thank you again.
Thank you.
Who doesn't need more Yeti cups? Let's go.
Yes, thank you.
You're amazing. So let's give it up for Whynde. All right. right, we're going to keep it rolling. Got to move it over here to, I don't know what I just clicked, but hopefully that doesn't destroy anything.